Hey VC, it's Jonathan, your cheap and cheerful record collector. Today I'm doing a thread on Show Your Sinatra.
For us to fall in love.
I mean, Sinatra, what are you going to do, man? The best.
Hey baby.
All right, I went through all my records recently and I realized I have more Sinatra albums than any other artist. I have 37 of his records. I got turned on to Sinatra by my father in the mid-50s when I was growing up on Long Island. Dad used to always, especially the weekends, would take out after work all week. He'd take out his Sinatra albums and pour himself a little drink. That was his Sunday ritual. And he had one drink a week, and that was it. And put Sinatra on his old Gerard turntable. So I got to learn about Sinatra early on. And I've always been a fan. Let me start off. I got a couple of books on Sinatra I wanted to show first. If you're interested in Frank at all, then this is the book you should get, called The Voice by Frank by James Kaplan. Great biography of Frank. It's long, about 500 pages, 700 pages, but great book. Doesn't pull any punches, talks about the bad stuff and the good stuff, but a really complete book about Frank and his life. There's another book I picked up called The Sinatra Treasures. This is like a nice coffee table book. What I like about this one is that they have copies of different things in his life they put into the book. So you're looking through and all of a sudden they have a copy of Sinatra at the Fabulous magazine, Fabulous Las Vegas from 1952, and shows all the areas. There's Frank. So the book has all sorts of things like that. Things where he performed, tickets to his concerts. Great little book. So that's sort of fun to have. And then recently I was at Goodwill and I saw this one. Of course, anything that says Sinatra I pick up. It's a nice Sinatra book. Nothing special, just a nice little, nice photos, etc. Okay, so we all know that Frank started off singing when he was like 3 years old. His mother in Teaneck, New Jersey was a Democratic Party committeeman at that time, back when that you had to go to them to get a job. She ran a lot of stuff, and she had a bar, and at Frankie, when about 3 years old, his mom would take him to the bar, stand him up on top of the bar, and he would sing. He did that for years, and he joined a group of singers. I can't remember the name right now, but they used to perform on a show. Before there was American Idol, there was Ted Mack's Amateur Hour. Before that, there was this show he used to sing on. It was a radio show, and same kind of thing. Groups would come on, they would all sing. One of them would be the winner, and they get a prize. And Frank said the whole thing was always fixed. They used to bring him and his group back every couple of weeks and change the name of the group. Eventually, he crossed the river, went over from Hoboken, crossed over the river, Hudson River to New York City to pursue his dream. Ended up singing for Tommy Dorsey and his band. Tommy Dorsey was a really strict band leader and really signed Frank to a terrible contract. After a couple of years, Frank realized that he was really the show. He had to get out of the contract. All sorts of stories about how he got out of the contract, but eventually got out and he went on his own. His first record he put out solo was this record. This is a repress. I'm not going to take the sleeves off. I got so many plastic sleeves, but it's called Frank The Voice. Originally released on 78s, 4 78s in a book. This is a re-release from 1955, I think. And it has Try a Little Tenderness, These Foolish Things, Laura, She's Funny That Way, Over the Rainbow, That Old Black Magic. So really early Frank, as you can see how young he was there. And it's on Columbia. He then went to Capitol, and this is, I got a list here of the dates. This is 1954, this album on Capitol, called Swing Easy. This is, I think, it's one of his first recordings for Capitol. To me, this is really the meat of his career, is the 1950s, early 60s recording for Capitol. He had Nelson Riddle and Billy May as his orchestras, and supposedly, he went in, heard Nelson Riddle's band, and they sort of looked at each other and they smiled and they knew that it was a marriage made in heaven. It was it. Sort of like the time when John, Paul, and George heard Ringo play with them for the first time, and Paul turned to John, they looked at each other, and they said, that's it, that's the missing link we needed. That was the missing part. And same way that Nelson Riddle's band was the missing part to Frank's career. So, Swing Easy, I have 2 copies. Here's a 10-inch that I got, and this has 8 songs on it. And then they came out with the LP, has a couple more songs on it. On the there's a repress on the Capitol label, but great album, conducted by Billy May, Nelson Riddle, Jeepers Creepers, Wrap Your Troubles in a Dream, I'm Gonna Sit Right Down and Write Myself a Letter, etc. I'm not going to go through everything because, like I said, I have 30 some odd albums to show. So that was 1954. Let me see what else we got. In 54, by 1955, we had 2 albums released that I have. The Voice, which is the one I showed you, and the next one, which is one of my favorites, In the Wee Small Hours. Absolutely love this album so much that I got 2 copies. Why do I have 2 copies? Because one is an original first pressing with the Capitol gray label. Not in great shape, but because it's the first pressing, I have to keep it. The other one is a later pressing with the Capitol rainbow label, and that sounds much better. That's the one I usually play. But I just couldn't get rid of the first pressing, no matter, even if it wasn't in great shape. So I got 2 copies of In the Wee Small Hours. These are obviously much more down songs, not as up, etc., but just fantastic stuff. In the Wee Small Hours is a song, Mood Indigo, I Get Along Without You Very Well, Can't We Be Friends When Your Lover Has Gone, I'll Never Be the Same. So sort of down, sort of sad songs by Frank, but a great album. All right, so that's 1955. Now we're up to 1956, where he put out a couple of albums. The next one is sort of a silly album he put out in 56. He couldn't read music. For some reason, he never learned how to read music. But he always wanted to conduct a band. So they gave him the chance, and he put out this album called Tone Poems of Color. Sinatra conducts, and it's really terrible. But you have to have it if you're going to have a collection of Frank. So that's just something to put out in 1956. After that, you had This Is Sinatra, which is another great album, on again with Capitol. This was a repress. This is the Starline, which is their cheap repress they put out later on. But it's really clean and sounds great and has great songs on it. I Got the World on a String, 3 Coins in the Fountain, South of the Border, From Here to Eternity, Learning the Blues, Love is a Tender Trap. Great stuff, 1956. The same year they put out This Is Frank, This Is Sinatra Volume 2. And this is, as you see on the Columbia rainbow label. And this says, Hey Jealous Lover, How Little We Know, Crazy Love, Put Your Dreams Away. Just, a great early compilation of Frank stuff. All right, so we're up to 1956 at this point. And then in 56, they brought out songs. This was the album that my dad used to listen to all the time. And my favorite Sinatra album. This, again, is the first press of Songs for Swingin' Lovers. If you know this album, you know that this was an original because he looks much older there, and he's looking away from the couple. When they repressed it later, they sort of made him look younger, and he's looking towards the couple. Who knows? But this is a first press on the gray Columbia label, Capitol label. I'm sorry, Capitol label. And this album, of course, has my favorite songs. You Make Me Feel So Young, You're Getting to Be a Habit with Me, You Brought a New Kind of Love to Me, Old Devil Moon, I Thought About You, Making Whoopee, Anything Goes. It's if you have no Sinatra albums at all, and you want to get one album, I would get this one. It's more up, more positive, and fantastic record. Next album he put out was Swingin' Affair. Again, you know, I Got Plenty of Nothing, Nice Work If You Can Get It, Stars Fell in Alabama, I Got a Bad and It Ain't Good. Just classic stuff. Again, this is Nelson Riddle's orchestra on this one. There you go, Frank. Then he goes in sort of this album is a little more moody, not as quite as up, but it's a great album. This came out the next year in 1958, and it sings for Only the Lonely. Love that 1950s cover, so perfect. And he has Only the Lonely, What's New, Willow, Weep for Me, Ebb Tide, One for My Baby, One for the Road. Again, Capitol Nelson Riddle Orchestra. Fantastic record. And the back, everyone loves the back with the guy sitting alone in the park under the light, under the street light. Only the Lonely. Then they put out a couple albums, more concept, and these were all sort of concept albums. This one he went with Billy May on this one, and I love this. This is Come Fly With Me. I love that with the TWA playing. So great. And this has, with Billy May and his orchestra, Come Fly With Me, Isle of Capri, Moonlight in Vermont, Autumn in New York, Let's Get Away From It All, April in Paris, London by Night. Just great. Fantastic stuff. Then this is still 1958 at this point. Let's see. Next one is 1959, and again, one of my favorite albums by Frank. He's in the more low period in this album. Orchestra by Gordon Jenkins, which I'm not that big a fan of, but I love this record. And it's No One Cares. The greatest cover in the world. Everybody's partying, and Frank is there by the bar by himself. When No One Cares, Stormy Weather, I Don't Stand a Ghost of a Chance with You, I Can't Get Started, I'll Never Smile Again. If you know the song I'll Never Smile Again, actually written by a woman whose husband was killed in World War II. She was the songwriter, and when she heard he died, she wrote that song. Really tears your heart out. Great album. No One Cares, Frank Sinatra. A follow-up to Come Fly With Me was Come Dance With Me. We went back to Billy May with this for his orchestra leader, and this has Come Dance With Me, Something's Gotta Give, I Could Have Danced All Night, Cheek to Cheek. Great stuff. Again, he's still at Capitol, still recording some of the best stuff of his career. Next album is one I have on. This is 1960, and it's Nice and Easy, which I absolutely love this album. This is Nelson Riddle again, and Nice and Easy, I Got a Crush on You, Try a Little Tenderness, Embraceable You, etc. Love Frank in that picture. Nice and easy. There he is going over the lyrics. 1961. I have two albums from 61. Sinatra, Swingin' Session. Swingin' Session. Again with Nelson Riddle. Great stuff. Blue Moon, Supposin', It's Only a Paper Moon, September Rain, I Concentrate on You. I just can't get enough of Frank, I'm sorry. Also in 1961, Come Swing With Me. Billy May this time. Those were his two big, with Billy May and Nelson Riddle. Some Gordon Jenkins, but mostly Billy May and Nelson Riddle. This has Day by Day, Sentimental Journey, On the Sunny Side of the Street, That Old Black Magic. Come Swing With Me. Also in 1960, somehow, he started his own label, Reprise, around 1960. For a couple of years there, they were releasing albums both on Capitol and Reprise. He did his own Reprise stuff, and I guess Capitol still had stuff in the can that they released later on during that period. Early Reprise was good. He brought over Nelson Riddle and Billy May on some of the stuff. The later Reprise stuff, I felt he really didn't have anybody watching him, and he made some bad choices, but that's just my opinion. This was his first album on Reprise, and nope, I'm sorry, there was another one, Swing Along With Me, which I don't have, from 61. This is also from 61, Ring-a-Ding. Nope, 1960, I'm sorry, Ring-a-Ding. First album on Reprise, 1960. This is Johnny Mandel recorded. This was the orchestra leader on this one. And it's great. Ring-a-ding, ring-a-ding-ding, A Foggy Day in London Town, In the Still of the Night, I Got My Love to Keep Me Warm, Let's Face the Music and Dance, Ring-a-ding-ding, Frank Sinatra. Also 1961 on Capitol, they released this, I think, after he left, and this is All the Way. This is obviously a repress, it's in a stereo version. This one, Point of No Return, 1962 on Capitol. This I picked up just recently at a Goodwill. I had never seen this record before, so I grabbed it as soon as I saw it. It's not bad. I mean, the arrangements, again, Axel Stordahl, whatever. But it's a September song, When the World Was Young, I'll Be Seeing You, Memories of You. It's okay. It's not bad at all. But I just think the orchestration lacks the pop of Nelson Riddle and Billy May on that. This is an album recorded in the 1940s that later on they re-released, and originally released on 78. It was everything was put together and re-released as Tommy Dorsey and orchestra with Frank Sinatra. This is many different recordings put this album together. So the quality of the recordings are men's amends, but it's good to have in your collection of to have some Frank with Tommy Dorsey. Next one is on Reprise. This is one of my favorite on Reprise, and it's the Concert Sinatra. This is 1963, and this is back with Nelson Riddle. He brought them over to a Reprise to play with him, and My Heart Stood Still, Lost in the Stars, Bewitched, This Nearly Was Mine. Really nice album. Okay, moving along. Same year, back on Capitol, again with Nelson Riddle. This is Tell Her You Love Her. This is a duophonic. Duophonic is basically their way of saying electronically re-enhanced for stereo. But good album, Tell Her You Love Her, Love Is Here to Stay, Can't We Be Friends, I Got It Bad and That Ain't Good. Again, he does that. Making Whoopee, Pennies from Heaven. He records a lot of the same songs many times over his career with different orchestras and in different ways. Also, then we're up to 1964. In 1964, he put out this record with Count Basie. And this, again, is Sinatra Basie, a historic musical first on Reprise. And, of course, anything with Count Basie is fantastic. Love the Count. Again, Pennies from Heaven, he recorded it again. Love Is a Tender Trap. I Only Have Eyes for You. Nice Work If You Can Get It. So, like I said, he recorded the same songs many times with different orchestras, different arrangements, different takes. He then put out another album with Count Basie the same next year on Reprise. And this is It Might As Well Swing. This arrangement's by Quincy Jones. So this is a wonderful album. Fly Me to the Moon, I Believe in You. The Best Is Yet to Come. Which actually, The Best Is Yet to Come was the last song Frank ever sang in concert. When he ended his career and retired, the last song that he sang was The Best Is Yet to Come. Which I thought was interesting. Excuse me, I gotta stop this record for a second. And And he's back. Okay. Moving right along. It's going to take a while, this video, because I got lots to show. And I want to get it right. 1965, on Reprise, My Kind of Broadway. Again, different recordings all put together in compilation of songs from different Broadway shows. So he has Luck Be a Lady from Guys and Dolls, Hello Dolly from Hello Dolly, obviously. You can't take that away from me from Shall We Dance. Nice Work If You Can Get It from a show called Damsel in Distress. Have You Met Miss Jones from a show called I'd Rather Be Right. So, great songs. A little different for him, going with Broadway show tunes, but really enjoyed this album a lot. Really good. Excuse me, I need to wet my whistle here. Arnold Palmer I'm drinking today. Still early. In 1965, he put out Sinatra 65. How unique a title that is. Again on Reprise. I can't remember who the band leader is on this one. But decent album. Not my all-time favorite, but a good album. Sinatra 65. Also in 65, he put out A Man and His Music, which is a really nice compilation. As you can see, they show the young Frank and the mature Frank. 2-record set. And goes all the way from early stuff and follows your musical career, the most exciting entertainer of our time. Narrated and sung by Frank Sinatra, with orchestras by Nelson Riddle, Gordon Jenkins, Billy May, Cy Oliver, Count Basie, Don Costa, plus other highlights. The other highlights would be the Tommy Dorsey stuff. So a nice early compilation of Frank. This one I had never seen either. I never knew this existed. I saw this at Goodwill last year, and of course grabbed it as soon as I saw it. And it's Frank Sinatra sings Cole Porter. Cole Porter, a great songwriter, Broadway show writer. Again, this is Nelson Riddle conducting this album. I Got You Under My Skin, I Concentrate on You, You Do Something to Me, Anything Goes, Night and Day, I Get a Kick Out of You, I Love Paris, all Cole Porter songs. Frank. All right. That's 1965. 1966. It's the only white label promo I got of Frank. And this is Frank Sinatra's Greatest Hits, the Early Years. Also a good compilation. I've Got a Crush on You. Basic stuff. Sunday, Monday, or Always. Put Your Dreams Away. And if you want to see that white label promo, I haven't been showing a lot of labels because they're all basically the same. But here's a nice white Columbia radio station copy, not for resale. That's pretty cool. Next one is one of my favorite live albums. And this is also from 1966. And it's Sinatra Live at the Sands with Count Basie and his orchestra. Again, arranged by Quincy Jones. 2-record set. Frank does there's a whole bit where he sits and talks to the audience, and it's great to hear him talk and schmooze with the audience a little bit. But it has all his classic songs on it, and fantastic. One of my favorite live albums. Just great. Also from that year, or maybe it was the year before, excuse me, was his big hit, Strangers in the Night, on Reprise. Never loved that song. Never loved this album all that much. It's okay. Never a fan. Next one I love is the Jobim album, which he put out in '67, with when the whole bossa nova Brazil thing was very big, Girl from Ipanema, etc. And this with Frank and Jobim, and they do Girl from Ipanema, Change Partners, Meditation, I Concentrate on You, Baubles, Bangles, and Beads. Really good album. I like this a lot. Yeah. There's a very famous album that they put out together that was never released. Picture of a Greyhound bus on it. It was, I mean, maybe they said maybe half a dozen or a dozen copies were ever released. Impossible to find. But one of those white whales, I'll never find it. Next, also in 1967, we have Frank, Try a Little Tenderness. This is back on Capitol. So this must have been in the can for a while, that they released after he was already started his own label. My Blue Heaven, Try a Little Tenderness, Starsville, Alabama. I don't know if these are the same recordings that were on some of the other albums and they just put it together, but it's a great one. 1968, Frank and Duke Ellington got together and put out an album. Francis A. and Edward K. There they are. Frank and Duke. Again, a great album just because it's Duke Ellington and Frank. All I Need Is the Girls, Indian Summer, Yellow Days, Poor Butterfly, Come Back to Me. Also, it says arranged by Billy May with the Duke Ellington Band and Frank Sinatra. Getting down to it. This one came out by 68 also, I think, or yeah, it should be 68. Maybe it's later. Sorry about that. And this is The Main Event, another live album, which is really actually a pretty decent live album. 74, I'm sorry, 74. This was recorded at Madison Square Garden, and it starts off with Howard Cosell doing The Main Event. So it's really great to do that. Live at Madison Square Garden, October 1974. It's very funny when they have Howard Cosell announcing it like a prize fight, and then Sinatra's dressed up like a prize fight with his gloves and stuff. It's a great album. Don Costa Band, recorded live, just great stuff. Does all his classics. Lovely, really nice album. And then finally, my very last Sinatra album was one of the last he put out from 1980, and it's the trilogy, Past, Present, and Future. Again, really nice compilation. Has the past with collectibles from the early stuff, the present, and the future reflections in the three tenses. But good album. Not fantastic, but definitely good. Definitely enjoy this one. Put this on numerous times. So that's my Frank Sinatra collection. I hope you learned a little something. Hope you, if you're not a Sinatra fan, I hope you spend some time and delve into his discography. Like they said, Frank Sinatra learned from Bing Crosby. Bing Crosby was the first man, supposedly singer, who sang, without a megaphone, and was the first person that could bring people into him instead of projecting out to them. He expressed emotion, and people had to come listen closer. And Frank was the expert at that, of bringing people into the song instead of him projecting out to the audience. And he didn't have much of a range. I think maybe 2-octave range he had, but it didn't matter because the way he put a song across and the way he draws an audience into the song was what he was all about. I hope you enjoyed my little trip down memory lane with Frank Sinatra. And until next time, peace.